Going to look at some new tools here. I call these the makeup tools. Really cool stuff, and we're just going to jump right in right now. So the makeup, we're going to look at these tools here: spot healing brush, patch tool, content aware move tool, and the red eye tool. To start with, you'll find these right here. I had the red eye tools up there, and we'll start with the spot healing brush tool. Love this tool. Does a lot of really cool stuff. Okay, so I'm going to move over here to my layers, go to images to work on, and we're going to look at this girl here. She has a couple blemishes on her face, and we're going to remove them today using the spot healing brush. So if you see my brush here, it is up here in the brushes window. I can change the hardness, softness, all that good stuff, just like any other brush. The different sizes. I like to use my brackets key to change my size. You can see if the right bracket gets bigger, the left smaller, just like my brushes do the same. So let's move on over here to her, and we're going to click right here on this one, and you'll notice it disappeared. What it does, it takes the diameter of my circle and it uses that information and uses a little Photoshop magic, and it brings all that information and uses it to make the inside the same as the perimeter. I don't know all the ins and outs of the math of it, but you can kind of get an idea of what it does, and you can draw with it a little bit, make it bigger or smaller. You know, maybe you got to come back in places, but I'm just going to keep going on her face and remove these. And as you can imagine, there's tons of uses for this tool outside of just removing a couple of blemishes on a face. You can do all kinds of things with photographs, things you want to remove. If I came to the eye right here and click, you're going to notice it's going to get some weird stuff. So, you know, when you have something like this, it's not going to give you the results you want. So it has to have an area, you know, that around there that's going to be useful for giving you what you want, to give you the colors, the textures, all that, what you want. So you can see I did a pretty good job removing those blemishes. Let's just make it bigger just for fun. Let's see what happens if I try to take out her whole eye here. Boom. And look at that. I can actually take out her eyes. Just reading that information, and somehow it blends it in there really nicely. Pretty cool. I love this tool. Then there's the healing brush, which is basically kind of the same thing. I don't really use this one as much. If I undo a couple of blemishes, I can show you how this one goes about. Let's do that right there. The healing brush, basically, if I make my brush bigger and I try to click and use it, nothing happens. It says option click to define a source point to be used to repair the image. Okay, that'll be helpful later when we look at a different tool. So we'll come over here and we'll find a nice smooth area. Option click, so I'm basically going to be using that information to, and you can see it, you didn't just make it light like this, it's blending with what's already there plus the area I did it. So it did a really good job. So this one, you know, it may be something to explore. I haven't used this. Usually the spot healing brush tool does enough for me that I don't really need to option click somewhere. But you never know. So just know what it does. The patch tool lets you repair a selected area with pixels from another area. It's sort of like what we just used, but it's a little different. And I'll show you what I mean. So here we go. We're going to use the patch tool. So this time we are going to deal with a little eye area right here. And we're going to come over here and change to the patch tool. And to do that, you actually have to, I'm going to select an area like right around here first. So these are the area that I want to select. I want to make her skin smoother. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, click and drag down to a smooth area, and then just release it. And then if I hit Command D or deselect, you can see pretty cool. You know, there's definitely could be improved, but that wouldn't be hard. So the patch tool, again, another way of repairing photos. So come in here, clicking, deselect, and we're basically trying to make her look younger. I'm going to come into her mouth, these wrinkles right here. You can see, you always want to give a little space around what you're trying to edit. About like so. Come here, deselect, and come here, and we're taking her, we're trying to get her down to about in her 20s. Deselect, and she looks much younger. Absolutely. So that is the patch tool. Again, I rarely use that one, but it's kind of cool. I have used it. All right, this one's really cool. Content Aware Move Tool. So we're going to cruise on up here to Content Aware Move Tool. you have two different modes. This mode right here is move, and you also have extend. So if I kind of do it now, it should probably say, it still calls it the move tool, but it can do two things, and we're going to look at both of those. First, we're going to look at move. This is one of my favorite things. It's really wowed me when this first came out. So looking at this girl, and I'm thinking to myself, she's looking from right to her left. She would be much better off if she were over here. So we're going to move her using this tool. And again, give her a little bit of a buffer zone whenever I'm making my selection, about like this. Okay, and then click, let go, and then marching ants will pop up. Just click and drag, and again, if I hold shift, I can make her go straight across, but that doesn't really matter. And then when I'm saying yep, come up here to the commit the transform, the little check mark, click it, and watch this. Boom. Hit deselect, and that's pretty amazing. She actually did move. Now if I come in here and zoom in, I'm going to see a little bit of a halo effect, but I can use some tools to fix that, such as a clone stamp tool, or maybe some of the ones we just looked at, patch tool, whatever. So we'll look at that. Now I'm going to use the same thing on her, and you're going to see a different result, of course. So if I come in here and get this girl here, I go all the way around her, and then I do my whole click and move over, holding shift. I want to keep her right there. Hit the plus, or the check, I'm sorry, and deselect, and there you go. That's not nearly as good because, of course, the background is complex and different and varying. So you can see it has its limitations. I actually could probably use this, come in here and repaint some of these things and make it work, but I wouldn't use it for something like that. It's a really neat tool. And then you can also extend. This is very odd, and I have used this, I think, maybe once. So now we're going to look at the content of where extend. Just because it's neat, we're going to zoom in on this horse, cut him about right here. Get a little bit of that shadow, get around his tail, all the way here. And there we go. We're going to click, drag to about right. Hold shift when you do it, so nice and straight. And then hit the plus, and voila, deselect. And I moved him, and you can see I had issues. Let me try that again. Let's try this time. I'm going to move him. Not quite as much, and I'm going to hold shift. Let's try it now. Deselect. Much better. I do have some issues in here, and we'll look at how to fix that in a second. But again, when are you going to use this tool? I don't know. They're pretty cool tools. Red eye tool. This is one tool that does exactly what it says. So you come go grab the red eye tool, old photographs that you may have scanned in from back in the day using traditional cameras. You might experience this red eye. I don't think it happens in digital cameras. Anyhow, all you got to do is click on the red eye, and bam, there it goes. It's gone. And I even set this type up so I can show you. It even works on the type. So red eye tool takes out the red. Okay. There's other ways to do that, but that's a nice quick, if you had a lot of these, really fast, easy way to do it. Now here's one of the great tools of Photoshop, kind of the precursor to all the tools I just showed you. Some of the things that I'm showing you a lot, like this little halo and stuff, and maybe around her eyes where you can kind of see some things, a little edge. We can fix with this tool. This tool is really cool, very powerful. What it does, it paints. The clone stamp tool paints with one part of an image over another part of the same image. You can also paint part of one layer over another layer. It's useful for duplicating objects or removing a defect in an image. It's very, very useful. So I'm going to show you kind of what it did. This is what the clone stamp tool is capable of, this old World War I photograph. And this was somebody who took the clone stamp tool and fixed it with this. And I'm going to zoom in and show you how it works. So first of all, go get it. It's right here, clone stamp tool. And we also have the stamp pattern tool. We're not going to use the stamp pattern tool. I never have, so we're just going to ignore that one. So get the clone stamp tool. And to use this, we're going to, let's go zoom on in here. Actually, let's do it on over here. We'll do it on her to start with. I'm going to come here, and I'm going to move the tool around just to show you what it's doing. And then if I hold the Option key, you can all of a sudden see this little, basically it's a sight, like a gun sight. And I'm going to click, and it's saying right there, this information here is what I'm going to paint with over here. So basically it paints with information that you select. So again, I can make it bigger or smaller. I come here and I can start painting, and I can start to maybe fix these little areas. Now, if I come here and click, I'm going to get that green. So you can see I maybe don't want that. I'll probably come and click an area over here a little closer and paint a little bit of that. When I use this tool, I do a lot of selecting, a lot of sampling. You can see right now it says current and below. Those are the layers it's using. You can set this where it just works on one layer, current and below, which is just 2 layers, and all layers. Right now it's just working on this one layer no matter what I set it at, because I'm just working here on the top layer and I'm painting on it. But if I made a new layer, then I can say current and below. It's just going to give me the information from those 2 layers, which is nice. So you can see I can now turn that on and off. So always use layers, multiple layers. Don't ever use your original. So if I was to do this, I would definitely set up a top layer. And you can see it's fixing this up quite nicely. So we'll move over and look at the soldiers. Let's get something really more intense. I'm actually going to zoom way in on this guy and make my brush a little smaller. I probably would want a somewhat soft brush. I think maybe go about 50% of my hardness, and we'll select this area. And when you see, I'm going to keep selecting. I'm not going to stick in any one area. I'm actually going to lower the opacity down. I'm going to let this thing build up. So let's lower it to about 51, 50, whatever. And then I can kind of build these areas instead of, so I'm kind of combining the two. And please play along with me with all these tools. I'm sorry I should have said that earlier. But if not, definitely explore these tools. These tools will make you so much better as an illustrator, as a photographer, as just a designer all around. These are some really killer tools, especially this one. You can see I'm starting to get that face looking pretty good. That was before, and here's after, just did on that layer. So, you know, a couple of hours maybe, you could have this thing looking really tight, looking something like this. And you can, you know, this is a great skill to have. People to this day still do a lot of photo restoration. This is something that used to be done using an airbrush, though, but Photoshop has taken over that. So that's your clone stamp tool. Read more about it here. Okay. So then we're going to skip on down. I call these kind of the makeup tools, and we're going to look at the ones right here. This is going to be your dodge tool, your burn tool, and your sponge tool. The dodge tool will lighten pixels, the burn tool will darken them, and the sponge tool will saturate or desaturate your pixels depending on how you set it. The reason they look like this, like a popsicle and a hand, and where the names came from, this is from traditional photography. The dodge tool was like a little popsicle stick, and when you were in the dark room, you would wave it around underneath the light to lighten the pixels. The burn tool, you would focus the light to darken the pixels. So here we go. Let's see. We'll just start. Actually, let's start with this girl up here. And we'll move from there. So grab the where are they at real quick. Let me find them. I always lose them. And I do use these a lot. These are wonderful tools if I can find them. Here they are. It's a sponge. It's a sponge tool for desaturating or saturating. So grab the dodge tool and come in here, and you can see I'm on the wrong layer. Get on that layer, and I'm starting to making her highlights pop a little bit more. If I go, you can see it's set. I have ranges here too. Midtones, usually it's just set to midtone. I can change the exposure if I just want to do a little bit, or if I want to go full out blasting her with 100% like so. But usually not at 150 is probably pretty good. Don't mess with these other guys. Leave protect tones on. But I could also go make it so it's just dealing with the highlight areas or dealing with the shadow areas. Here's shadow areas, so I'm lightening those up. You can actually see a lot of information coming through there. So we'll switch over to the burn tool and get in here and burn in her a little bit and get into some darker shadow areas over here under her eyes. You get the idea. I do know this. You can hit the, which one is it? The Option key will switch back and forth between the two. So if you're really getting into darkening and lightening an image, that's a good one to know. You don't have to go back and forth over here. Just hit the Option and it switches between dodge and burn. So I used to show it on this one here. Let me just give you an idea what this will do. We are on the, we're going to lighten real quick. So we'll make her bigger and then lighten her teeth. I'm on the right layer. Deselect. Oh, I'm in the shadows there. I'm going to go to midtones, and there we go. Lighten her teeth. Or the opposite. If I want her to look really nasty, get the burn tool and burn those teeth. So get really kind of grungy looking teeth. So, okay, that's the dodge and burn. The next one, I haven't don't use the next one very often, but is the sponge tool. Remember saturate and desaturate in your, right here, if we look at our hue saturation for like an adjustment layer that we've been talking about. Just a little refresher here. If I can get it to pop up. View properties, come on. I don't see it. Oh, here it is down here. Sometimes things get a little lost. There. So right now, if I go saturate everything or desaturate, you can see it's black and white or a little color, and that's what saturate and desaturate do. If I oversaturate, that's what I get. So you can see the difference between the two. So we're going to use the tool just to see what it does and get an idea. So come here, get the sponge tool, set it to desaturate. We'll leave the flow at 50. Get on the right layer here, and you'll start to see, to make my brush bigger, that it's starting to remove the color from this image. So again, I've used this occasionally. She starts to look silver in places when you remove the color from the lips there. And if I change it to saturate, I'm going to get a complete opposite. You can see the colors really becoming vibrant and saturated. Okay. Let's see. Move on over. Okay. And then we'll move over to the gradient tool, to smudge tool. Just add a few more as we work our way down to the toolbars here. So here we go. The gradient tool, just like in Illustrator, it has its gradient tool. Photoshop does as well. Creates an even gradient from at least 2 colors within a selected area. So after clicking on a gradient tool in the toolbar, click on the gradient on the top bar to open the gradient editor. So let's do that. First of all, we need an area to do it to. So click here. Okay, we're going to make a gradient on this rectangle. So let's make a selection of this rectangle. Now just a refresher, if I hold Command and click here on the layer, it's going to select every pixel that's on that layer, which includes that. So right now I have all these other ones as well. That's fine, but if I just want this one, maybe I deselect and use something like the Magic Wand tool and then come here and select it that way. All right. So here we go. Let's do this. Let's grab the gradient tool. Where is it at? All my tools are screwed up. There it is, the gradient tool. And then come up here, click on this guy, and that tells me the gradients I'm using. Oh, it actually has some basics, some blues, some purples, greens. This is kind of new to me, so I usually just build my own. So I'm just going to build my own. Double click here, make this one green, hit OK. Maybe I need to make this one green. Oh, I'm on the none. I'm sorry. Let's try this again. Let's just start with a basic black and white. There we go. We'll just do it like that. And then if I want to double click and change it to say red, I got it. Okay. I was on a none or something. I don't know. But just start with the basic black and white. It's good at starter. Remember, you can always put more gradients in, like come in here and add one. Let's go to yellow here. Double click it. I can drag swatches in. Well, it's not letting me do it from there, so go to color. Do it from there. I can move these little sliders, all this good stuff. I kind of like Illustrator's version better than Photoshop as far as gradients. I have the gradient type, solid, noise, smoothness. I'm not sure what that is, but leave it at 100 for now. And hit OK. Oh, here's my different types. So I have radial gradient, linear gradient, radial. And then this one is angle gradient, reflective. I'm not sure diamond, that's kind of ugly. Pretty much use the linear and the radial most. You can explore these on your own. You have layer modes with this. We're not going to play with that right now. Just do a linear. Come here, edge to edge, hold shift so I get a nice straight line, and there you go. Of course, again, if you're doing something like this, make a new layer first and do it on the new layer. There you go. It's still going to be in that selection. Selection applies to whatever layer I'm on. And there you have it. You got yourself a gradient. Now, unlike Illustrator, I can't just select this and change it. I have to recreate it up here. If I want to make these edits, I got to do it up here and redraw it. Let's say if I want to come here and do like this, well, it's not going to affect it. I have to actually come in and redraw it, and now I get a new gradient. So anytime you redo it, change it, you'll have to recreate it. All right. This paint bucket tool, I've never used this, and I probably should. Fills pixels in a layer with a certain tolerance with the foreground color. So let's click on the layer image to work on again. We'll go ahead and deselect that one. Get this paint bucket tool if you want to. Let's see, right here. And I guess it gives me my foreground, I think. So if I come here, it's not where the paint bucket drip thing is right here. If you see this thing moving around, it's where that little arrow is. That's how you use it. So if I click this orange, it should, yep, paints it blue. So actually, bam, bam, pretty cool. Worked really nicely. I'll probably usually make a selection first, but this is a quicker way. So, all right, that's that. And then let's see, we have the blur tool, the sharpen tool, and the smudge tools. They pretty much do what they say. The blur tool will make pixels blurry. A good way to manually adjust a focal point. Make sure sample all layers is selected. I've had issues with this tool where it just did not work for me. We're going to try it today and let's see what happens. So we're going to go grab the, oops, not there, hang on. Where are we at? Here they are. The blur tool. And we'll make my brush a little bigger. And if I look up here, I got normal mode, strength 50%. And I think I said sample all layers is selected, so let's do that. And I'm just going to try blurring this. Let's see if we can get. And we'll zoom in. And you can see it is blurring. So, and we do use this if it does work for like making, helping with your focal point on a photograph, pushing stuff back that you want to be blurred, to make other things come out at you. Sorry about the phone. So yeah, it's working pretty good today. So I've had other days where I just could not get it to work. Maybe with a new Photoshop, they ironed that out. All right. And then we have the sharpen tool. It's the opposite of blurring. The sharpen tool, you would think, oh great, I can unblur my photographs. Really, not really. It's limited because as images become sharper, they become more grainier, or they become grainier. And let's zoom in here and I'll kind of show you what I mean. So these are a little blurry here. If I come here, let me go grab that tool real quick, the sharpen tool. Always look up here first. Set the default 50%, make it a little bigger, and I'm going to try to unblur this area here. And you can see, look at that. It is, it is a little sharper, but the more I do it, you're going to see it gets really, really, really grainy and saturated. It does no longer look real. So this tool can work a little bit. A little bit goes a long way with this tool. So it's definitely if I wanted to pull something out, or I was maybe blurring other things, it works. So I do use this occasionally, but sparingly. Okay, so it's a really good tool. And then last but not least of all is the smudge tool. Smudges pixels together. It's like running your finger across a pastel drawing or a painting, a wet oil painting. Make sure sample all layers is selected again. So grab your smudge tool. I don't use this very much. I just don't like this. You'll see why. And there you go. I'm starting to smudge things. And it looks kind of fun and cool, but I don't use it too much. There's a different tool I'll show you later that I would use to push pixels around. So I kind of push them around, but it blurs things when I push it. So I think there's something called Liquify that I think works better. We'll look at that later. Okay, it won't give it the blurring that this tool does. All right, that is that. So all right, there's our first video lesson, and I'll speak with you or text you or whatever soon, or email you soon. All right, have a good one. Stay safe. Bye.